Hello again, and a very warm welcome to our little weekly podcast, Sweet Omagh Town Internet Radio. And by the miracle of radio and technology, I hope to talk to a young presenter called Declan Ford, who's in Mountfield. Well, how's things with yourself?
Things are grand. Things are grand. And another day, another headache, huh?
We have plenty of those. I know what I've done. I have stopped watching television and I've stopped listening to the news. Since I last spoke to you last, I have not a foggy what's going on. But I know this much. The traffic in Omagh is getting bigger and busier every day.
Right. We could be at war with Germany, and you wouldn't know.
Would I care? Too old.
Absolutely
Too old to
not.
fight.
You remind me of John Gielgud, the actor.
How so?
And the day after the war was declared with Germany in September 1939, somebody went down to see Gielgud in his country home, and he was very distracted, and he was walking, and he was obviously very, very perturbed. And they said, Johnny, are you worried about the war with Germany? He said, no, I'm just thinking about my performance last night as Hamlet. So you're like John Gielgud, you're living in your own little world.
My little bubble, yes, that's what I do. Yeah.
I can imagine you in your bubble and a mirror, and you're just sitting staring at the mirror and thinking, hello, Dawn.
My mirrors are love bites, Declan.
It doesn't even bear thinking about.
No, too much information.
Oh, exactly. Well, anyway, but anyway, look, it is what it is.
I just give up on the whole thing. Give up listening, watching, trying to make sense of the whole thing. It's
well, I wouldn't. You want to sit and watch Midsummer Murders and programs that got an absolute drivel. And you know, I've just discovered something. There are, God knows how many experts. See, since this pandemic last March, people have now got new job titles. They're all experts, and they are commentators. It's a bit like these influencers, these gab shites on YouTube, mugs are listening in, and they want to, somebody tells you to buy something, and you do it. Mm-hmm. Reminds me of, remember Lucille Ball?
Yes, very well, yeah.
Right, I always remember there was a scene in one of her shows where she was with her children in the supermarket, and it came on the tannoy, dog food down 50%, dog food down 50%. And she ran like the devil to get her bag or basket packed with dog food. And the son said, Mom, we haven't got a dog. She says, well, get one. I don't know.
It is. But, the internet has, it is the best and worst of all things, isn't it, really?
It is, yes.
It can be, but sometimes, you really have to listen and take things with a pinch of salt. Now, there's so many gurus, as you said, out and about there. People who know everything.
Authorities. Oh, for goodness sake, all these authorities. And you know what? They're very young.
No.
I think that may be our problem.
You're very jealous. Maybe that's what it is. You don't know technology at all, Declan.
Somebody in their 50s telling me what to do.
I could see you. I know what you mean. I can see you on Tinder. Some of these things are,
Do you think so?
I could surely, yeah.
Oh, I somehow doubt it. Look, you and I were reared on Ireland's Own.
Yeah, we were.
And then you would pour through the back, the back pages where there were people looking for romance, and then you were trying to figure out if you saw one from County Tyrone, you were trying to figure out who it was.
Could that be that neighbour that never speaks to you?
Exactly. Anyway, for goodness sake. Yeah. But no, look, as Ronnie Drew said in one of his penultimate CD, there's life in the old dog yet.
Well, hopefully there is. And you and I very recently spoke to Rob Strong.
Exactly. The great Rob Strong.
The one and only Rob Strong, yeah.
Absolutely.
And his manager as well came on, and we did it via Zoom because technically we couldn't get 3 or 4 phones to work at the one time. But it's one of those bad nights on the internet. So this is a Zoom call. You can actually look at us as well as hear us, so you're getting double money.
Well, and if you don't want to look, you don't have to look. You can just close your eyes.
That's what we do.
And imagine.
Fly back and think of something else. But it is a lovely chat with Rob about his life in the Planter Men in Omagh. And he was such a big part of Omagh's life during the 60s. And I was young enough, or just about old enough to get into the Royal Arms at those ages. I was maybe 14 or 15. And I remember watching this band and just the sound, Declan, and the atmosphere and the whole aura of the whole place was just wonderful.
Oh yeah,
You know.
yeah. Oh, he's a great powerhouse of a voice. I mean, I
Wasn't
think
he
he's the
just
best soul and blues singer in Ireland.
by a long chalk, you know.
Absolutely,
And it's just,
absolutely.
I don't know about I suppose a twist of fate or whatever. You know, there could be household names today, and you know they are, I suppose, in Ireland, but worldwide they could be. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
such a marvelous band, such a marvelous lineup, Declan, you know, of talent.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, I mean, I've read the book. They Still Going Strong by
Yes,
his manager
yes,
Paul Holland, and which gives a good insight into that world of music. You know, from the early '60s right up to the present day.
yes.
But also when you actually read the plaudits and the praise for Rob from the contributors,
Yeah.
it must be very humbling for him, and he is a very modest man.
And the industry as
He
well.
just
I mean,
look.
it's been the people,
Oh,
the huge names who endorse Rob Strong has been one of the best influences on soul and blues
oh
music in
yeah,
Ireland as well.
yeah,
And the
yeah.
fact he's still doing it every day, Declan, as well, which is marvelous, you know.
And I think the hope is that the book will be launched in Omagh, which would be wonderful.
Wouldn't it just be
You know,
be a fitting
just
trip?
when times are better. But it would certainly be a very fitting place to have a launch.
I didn't get the book till a few days later actually, but when I saw it, I was so impressed by it, Declan. It is a wonderful, wonderful production. It really is.
Good. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so
Well,
you know, anyone who's interested definitely should treat themselves to a book like that because it contains a CD of the music as well, and the pictures,
yeah.
and the general quality and print of the book is superb, really.
Yeah. It's excellent. Good. Good. Oh,
So it
well,
is available,
that's it.
and I say if it's available in Omagh in Boneyard Records as well. And if you
Oh,
if you
well,
do
okay.
feel you want a copy, just contact us on 0777173257. That's our number, and we'll put you in touch with Paul and have a listen to it. So you have to listen to Paul and yourselves, and then Rob Strong comes in the second half of the program because during the time we weren't able to contact him, and then later on that night, remember he came on and had a chat.
That's right. We did an extended interview with him. Yeah. Yeah. And well worth listening to.
Oh,
It was good.
absolutely.
Brought me back to my youth. I was wallowing in nostalgia for a while.
Right. I'd love to see a photograph of you in your youth. I tell you what, we'll put one up. Are you brave enough? And I will too. How's that?
Absolutely not. No
you-
way. I want to be like Banksy the artist.
I bet you do. For more reasons than one. Hey?
Exactly.
You don't
Oh
call him
well.
Banksy for nothing, I'm sure.
Oh no.
All right. Okay, I better get going because you're working, I believe, at the minute.
Look, I'm labouring in the field, and I'm actually looking out there and bucketing out of the heaven to use the technical term.
Yeah, yes.
And I can't wait to get into the garden.
Yes. Well, what I did yesterday, I decided to paint the garden fence, right? And you know the way I had a couple of tins of different types of varnish. And being the miserable bugger that I wasn't going to buy a fresh one. I had enough to finish.
Oh God, no! Why not?
So
Why not? If it was good enough in the last century, it was good enough now.
So it's mix and match, right? You know the way one was called dark oak and the other one was up in mountain ash or something else. So this was Arvally special. This one, it's a colour all and so
imagine
on.
it.
So as you drive past,
Right.
you'll see my little fence. It's not finished. 2 strands of 3. The middle one is still a faded ash colour.
Right.
But
Uh-huh.
it can only get better.
Well, look, there'll be bus loads coming out to look at it, to admire it.
All right, Mr. Ford. You'll be among them. You'll be among them in due course.
Oh, exactly. Well, that's good. Well, I look forward to hearing Rob Strong.
Rob Strong, his manager, Paul Holland, in the introduction, and then Rob Strong joins us later on in the interview. But until the meantime, Mr. Ford, take care of yourselves and stay out of trouble, as I'd say here, no more.
Exactly. Keep one step ahead. All the best.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Hello again, and a very good evening to you, and a very warm welcome to our weekly podcast, Sweet Omagh Town Internet Radio. Along with my co-host tonight, I'm delighted to welcome via Zoom Rob Strong, who is now living outside Dublin, and his manager Paul Holland, who's with us at the moment. Paul, can you hear us this afternoon?
I can indeed. Thanks, John. Yep.
You're very welcome. I'm not sure if you know what we do in our Sweet Omagh Town Internet Radio. It's mostly oral history, but we have quite a history going back to the Showbands and the St. Eugene Silver Band, which was responsible for all of the brass section that would have come into the Showbands in years later. and my co-host Declan is with you as well. I would like to talk about the book, Still Going Strong. What was the idea for writing it, and tell me how it all came about.
Well, I've been managing Rob Strong for the last 3 years, and I've followed Rob, most of my adult life, on and off over the years. And I got the opportunity to manage Rob after previously managing Don Baker and Rob Strong together in 2018. And I organised a tour of Ireland, north and south, where we toured mainly theatres around the country. And I always believed that Rob was world class, but I really wanted to kind of set the record straight, because a lot of people get the recognition that they deserve. They realize their potential. But knowing Rob and seeing the reaction from his fans over the years, I just felt that there was something missing. That how could he go through all his life without being properly recognized, and knowing him well, I knew that he was so modest and humble himself as a person. And I knew so many other people in the music business that are the direct opposite, that they're all the time putting themselves forward. And, the Daniel O'Donnells and the Nathan Carters, they're never off the television. Even Mary Coughlan, it's a constant kind of revolving door, the same people the whole time. So I felt this is not right. So I said, when we had the opportunity in lockdown last year, when the gigs suddenly came to a halt, that this is the time now to put the record, down on paper, that this man has been, we'll say, not ignored, but certainly kind of left to one side. And I said, the best way of putting the record straight is to go out there and talk directly to the people in the business. So I set upon myself the task of getting their opinions on the quality of his voice and his musicianship playing the bass guitar. And as you see yourself, Don and Declan, in the book, the quotes I've got are exactly, if not what I thought, but actually better than I thought.
Yeah, and Paul, Rob seems to be a man who hides his light under a bushel. And when you look at, you must have some little black book when I look at the names of the people that you interviewed. And I don't think there was any twisting of arms in their praise for Rob Strong. And it's universal across the interviewees, and they stretch across all musical genres. It was remarkable. How easy was it to put that together? Did you have a plan of campaign, or did you just talk to Rob and then he would mention a name and you would just talk about, well, look at that period in his life?
Yeah, actually, I don't have a little black book, and I'm not really that well known in the music business. I've always followed music. I've always been involved in some way. Like, I worked in the Bagged Inn when I was 17 years of age in Dublin, and my only reason for working there was to see the best music in Ireland, live, and actually get paid to do that. It was a no-brainer at the time, I was also very involved in football, soccer. I'm from Drogheda originally, and I've been involved with Drogheda United for the last 15 years. So it's basically the same process. When I interview a football player, I've interviewed the Drogheda players and managers for the last 15 years. And branching off from that, I've got to interview Irish internationals, legends, if you like, people like Paul McGrath and Jack Charlton and all those people. So I had always been doing that type of thing. I always wanted to get the proper evidence, because I'm younger than Rob, I'm 56, so I would have missed out on the vast majority of the Showband scene myself. So the lockdown was the perfect time, because everybody was at home. Nobody was going on holidays or going anywhere in March 2020. They were all at home. And to be honest, once I mentioned Rob's name, there was never a problem. So that was okay. I was aiming as high as I could go. And I started off with people like Johnny Logan, because Johnny was in a band with Rob. Again, that from the book, because they were in the same band, the Giants, in 1974 or 75. And there was lots of other people like Eric Bell, from Tin Lizzy, he would have known Rob quite well, and they would have played similar kind of festivals and that type of thing. I mean, it's turned out to be a little background to the music scene of the last 6 decades that Rob has been playing in. And I loved that time because I loved live music. And, people like Bruce Shields were a great help. Johnny Logan was a gentleman. I was expecting a bit of a egomaniac, to be honest, but he was very down to earth and very respectful of Rob's talent, and he even made a video, as did Brush. They made videos after reading the book.
Yeah, well, and Johnny Logan, he's based now in Germany, isn't he? And he's the folk rock scene.
He has a house in Ashbourne, County Meath, but he spends the vast majority of his time in Germany and in Scandinavia, where he's really, really appreciated. He's not so appreciated here anymore. He can only do 2 gigs in Vicar Street, and there's no nationwide tour of the Johnny Logan band.
Yeah,
it's a long time.
He played up here, He played in a carnival marquee. After he won the Eurovision, it was a local priest had the stars of Coronation Street flown in by helicopter, and Johnny Logan to sing What's Another Year in the wilds of Greencastle, which is, think of the back of beyond. Well, it's just sort of further beyond that.
Yeah.
And to his credit, he came and did it, and I dare say enjoyed it. But you mentioned the Bag It In, and you must have seen great performances like Jimmy Slevin. Did he play in the Bag It In?
He did indeed, yeah. Well, you're going back a little bit earlier now to the 70s.
Right.
Jimmy Slevin was really popular in a place called Moran's Hotel, where Rob played with the Rockets in say around 1977, 78. Smiley Bulger was the promoter there. But if you go on to 1982, when I was working there, you had the Blades on a Friday night. You had a band called Full Circle who used to fill it out for every Saturday night for like 20 years nearly. You had Brush Shields there. You had Moving Hearts. They were very popular in the Bagot from about 1982, 83, and they played twice a week. Freddie White and Colin Wilkinson. But before that, previously, I missed out on U2. U2 would have played there a lot in the late 70s and early 80s.
Count your blessings.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, I remember going to see Thin Lizzy in Dalymount Park.
Yes.
And the Radiators from Space were one of the support acts, and of course Phil Lynott, and then Phil's black leather glory, blinding everybody with the metallic part of his bass guitar, shining it into the crowd like a spotlight from a prison wall,
Yeah.
But there were heady days, and Freddie White and Desperados Waiting for a Train. Remember, that was a great one for him.
Yeah.
Old Walking Cane, But there were heady days. And were you always interested in that rock music and blues?
I was. Well, I can go back to when I was 11 years of age. My father was a sales rep, and he would travel around the country selling this kind of squashes and soft drinks and that type of thing. And he was staying I was with him. He was staying in the Traveller's Friend Hotel in Castlebar, which was a massive, massive venue. It was the first time I ever saw a live band.
Right.
The live band was the Memories. And I couldn't believe it at the time. These guys were not miming. They were actually able to play Bohemian Rhapsody to a T, and the whole kind of theatrics that went with their live performance left a lasting impression on me. So in the back of my mind, I always wanted to work in a live venue. And unknown to me at the time, I was to become more involved as a manager later on. But in between, I was very involved in soccer, as I mentioned earlier on.
Looking back, Paul, when Rob Strong began his career, he wasn't the frontman for the early Plattermen. It was Brian Call, and then in later years, he evolved into the Plattermen, as I would have known that. They didn't get the recognition of that time because maybe the music that they chose to play, sort of the Blood, Sweat and Tears type of music, I wonder if it wasn't maybe as accessible or danceable to as most of the country dry halls that we were used to at that time. Do you think that would be a reason that the band weren't picked up for a wider audience?
Yeah, very good reason. Yes, they went and did their own thing. You know, they did the conforming with the uniforms and everything that was required. And the big thing that jumps out to me, they made a hell of a lot of money. The bigger show bands, they were able to play 6 nights a week. Rob was able to join the bus in Omagh, head off on this fancy bus with airplane seats, head off down the country. They'd spend 3 or 4 days in Cork, play 4 or 5 gigs in Cork City, the Arcadia, the Stardust, a place in Crosshaven in County Cork, called the Mallorca. And should there be loaded with money? And why would they jeopardize everything and go to England and tour all the big halls in England and start from scratch? Now, the other opportunity they did have in England, they did record an album in London with a famous producer called Tommy Scott. And for some variety of dodgy reasons, that album was never released. And there was a lot of fiddling that went on in those days. A lot of people like Bruce Shields would say everybody was fleeced. Yeah, and just on that, lad, just to say, I'd like to thank Pat Chesters, Ray Moore, and Leo. The 3 of them were fantastic help to me because I knew very little about the Plattermen. As I say, I'm younger that way, and I'd never have seen them live. But Leo actually has 8mm footage of the band on tour all around the country. Not so much live music, but just having the crack
in the bus.
But like so many of them are alive. John Trotter and Al McCartney have interviewed all them, and the Platterman chapter got bigger and bigger in the book. And like say the pictures I was able to get from say Spotlight, I got so many quality pictures from Spotlight, and there are so many good show band memorabilia collectors that helped me out. Thaddeus and McGinley in Derry was fantastic help. He has saved everything from the Platterman.
But the raw energy that they exuded on the stage, because I was there when sort of the mid-60s when they were at their peak, and to see them on stage and to hear them on stage, they were a band that was totally ahead of their time.
Yes. But I would like to point out that there was an injustice in going to London and recording that album, and it never was released. That was a huge disappointment for me, seeing what could have been, Do
the tapes still exist, or do you know?
Yes, they do. Yeah. But in the music business, as you probably know these days, there's all sorts of cowboys still on the go, And I was approached, and I was all excited about the possibility of the album Old Devil Wine being re-released by Dolphin Records. And, everything seemed to look so good. The book coming out for Christmas, and, they bringing out the album or re-releasing it and all of that. And it just didn't happen, and I was kind of a little bit innocent to believe what I was told. I'm very skeptical since about anything along with, people trying to help you out or doing favors. I'd be wary of a lot of people. That's the type of business it is. People are very nice to you and very helpful when they're getting something out of you. But when you look for a little favor, maybe, or a little mention, like there's somebody on the National, I don't mind mentioning him. His name is Ronan Collins. He's very well associated with the Showband scene, and basically he was a very average musician himself, but he had a hard neck, and he is kind of at the forefront of the Showband kind of image. And he didn't mention my book when I got him to play a song there on Rob's birthday last week. He wouldn't bring it upon himself to mention the book. Now, it's the only book that has been printed recently about the show band scene, and he knows fine well how good Rob Strong is. But because he's in a clique with Phil Coulter and all those boys, and they don't look out for the likes of Rob. He's not in the circle. He's never been in a in a golden circle, and I don't like that type of thing, you know. So I jump at people like yourselves that are genuine, are doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah, well, certainly we have no axe to grind, or we certainly nobody paying us for anything other than what we do for the love and enthusiasm of it. Well, what music did you include? You have included a CD in the book.
I have indeed, yeah. It's called Soul Affair, and it's got 15 tracks from Rob Strong, and I'd say half of them could be played on any radio station in the world. You know what I mean? They're just so good to highlight his world-class talent. But I'd like to mention too that Barry Devlin is from Tyrone, as you know, Ardbow, and he wrote the foreword, and he gave me, along with Jim Lockhart from Horslips, 2 great interviews in the book. You know, they are, you know, as high as you can go in the music business. You know, Barry Devlin directed YouTube videos, and you know, very, very well known in business. So when you get people like that dropping their busy schedule, you know, it's very rewarding. My conclusion is that Rob just loves live music so much that he'd be happy playing 7 nights a week in any type of venue. He wouldn't be kind of turn his nose at this place and that place. You know, he's played in small places all over the north over the 55 years. Not many have stayed the course of 55 years on the road. And he is still, you know, there's people that lose their voice and can't sing anymore and all that. Rob is lucky that he's looked out for his voice. You know, he's still the same Rob Strong as he was when he first started out.
Well, Don.
Oh, Rob, how are you?
Good. See you.
I interviewed you before, but you don't remember it now.
Well, I know your face. Well, your face is very familiar. I know.
Yeah, I know Peter.
Good for faces.
Well. Peter McGuigan.
Peter. God, young Peter. Great lad.
I interviewed
big at the horses.
That's right. I interviewed you in Molly Sweeney's or the Weedlander one night in the mid-90s for a BBC documentary, I think, for many years ago. But I haven't seen you since. But I remember when I was a young lad, you used to practice up in St. Kieran's Hall in Ballygolly on a Monday.
Yes, that's right.
I used to go up and sit and listen outside to hear the band playing. Mind you.
You know what? Do you know this, Don? I was living in kind of in Dublin at the time. I was going with my wife Noreen at the time, and I used to get the express bus at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I used to ask the driver to let me off at the Ballygolly roundabout. to go to practice at 11 o'clock. At 11 o'clock, and I'd be on that express bus, and there'd be 2 or 3 people on there. And I used to get on that bus. Snow would be on the roads too, and that bus would still go there. So that rings a bell. That's a good one.
Where did it all start for you, Robin?
When it started?
Yeah.
Oh, gee. Well, I tell you, well, as you know, I was just doing odd jobs around Derry, and I was doing this and doing that, and I was delivering milk and everything. And I used to go to my granny's every Saturday, and I used to go over and do all the shopping for light the fire and all. My dad would give me 5 bob or something like that to do that every Saturday. So one particular Saturday, anyway, I spotted this old guitar in the corner. So anyway, to take this old guitar anyway, and I got a few strings and all that there. And I lived in Springtown Camp, and the McGinley family, they were all musicians, traditional music, and a man called Patsy McGinley. He started me off on the guitar, so I started off playing the guitar. We played a few skiffle stuff. We did a couple of, what do you call that great skiffle singer? Lonnie Donegan, great. Yeah. We used to do some of that stuff. A few Elvis Presley stuff and a few kind of rock and roll, 60s stuff, that there. So that's how I started playing. Right. So then I started getting, then we were just playing this a little kind of local kind of band called the Spartans. We done a few kind of like small wee gigs, nothing great, So then it progressed. I got into a Cayley band in Donegal. Jimmy Hofferty from Derry and his brother, young brother, Tommy Hofferty, fabulous jazz player. He's now living in Dublin, don't know where, but he got me into the Paddy McCafferty Cayley band. So here I was then playing Cayley music, old time waltzes, quick steps, and all that there. So that's where it started anyway. And then from that then onwards, and as I was telling Paul, all the stuff that, it's in the book and all that there, I used to go to all the dances and all that there, and used to go to the Corinthian Ballroom in Derry. And I used to see all the bands, and because I couldn't really play all these kind of songs and stuff like that because there's no books out there. I never had the records. Money was, it was tight. You never had any money at all in them days. So I'd go and I'd ask Paddy Owens, who was the guitar player in the Polka Dots, what's that opening chord of the Beatles' Hard Day's Night? So, it was a G suspended fourth. And I didn't know that, so. And then I happened to meet Brian Call. He was in the band. He said to me, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm not doing really much." He said, "We're looking for a bass player." So I said, "Well, I don't really play bass. I'm a guitar player." So he said, "Well, sure, can you play a bit of bass?" I said, "Well, I can play. I know what's needed and all that there, and some country music and all." And so I was in there. I was stood in for a couple of months because the other bass player was sick or something like that there. So when I go up to Omagh, and Brian got me digs and all, and so I was there for 6 months to a year. Of course, the original bass player didn't come back on me, so I had the steady gig anyway, 12 go a week, you know what I mean? So 4 out of that for your digs, and you know what I mean? So that's how it started anyway. And then Brian Call got me into the Polka Dots, as I said to Paul. And then the Polka Dots, Speedy Hamilton, you probably remember him. Do you remember him, Don?
Very well. I knew Speedy very well. Literally.
Yeah. Great. He was doing all this. Speedy was doing all this for the Midnight Hour, the Four Tops, and all that kind of stuff, and Sweet Soul Music and Mustang Sally, And of course, he left the band. I don't know really how he left. And I was in the Polka Dots singing Cliff Richard songs, you know what I mean? And they wanted me to do this kind of black soul stuff and all that there. And, and I found it quite difficult. So Brian Call left the Polka Dots. Sorry to tell the story right. He left the Polka Dots and went to the Plattermen. So when he went to the Plattermen, Speedy left the band, Speedy Hamilton, and then he asked me to join the band. So I joined the band, and I was getting it tight now singing this kind of music, Don, But after, you have to be working, doing that song for a couple of years to kind of get into the whole feeling. So anyway, that's how I got into the Plattermen. So I have a lot to, Paul, God rest, Brian, he got me into the Polka Dots and got me into the Plattermen, and so we were very good friends and all that there. So we used to go to all the racing, Brands Hatch and all that there. We was mad into kind of motorcycle racing, Brian. Oh, crazy, but motorcycle. Of course, he had me, and I had no interest in buying a bike. Robbie, you need to get a bike and all that there, not me out the Dundrum Road, learning to ride a bike, and no more interest, but I ended up buying a bike. But we used to go to all the racing and we over Brands Hatch and all that there, but they loved that then, and so I had many good times with the band, they were a great band, great sound band, So that's how I got into the Plattermen, and how I, only for Brian Call, who wouldn't be here today, actually. Probably might have been a bricklayer or a carpenter. But even when Paul suggested doing this book for me, and Paul got an interview before, God rest him, he died, and I'm delighted to get him into the book, because he's a great man and he done an awful lot for me, But extremely funny man, very funny man, and powerfully well liked. Everybody loved him. They all loved him,
He was a great storyteller, wasn't he? A great record.
I tell you, Jimmy Henry, a friend of mine who's a bass player, you probably heard of him. He's living in Siam Mills. And if you ever want to do an interview of Brian Call, he'll tell you the whole story. He knows everything about him. He knows all the stories, Every time I phone him, he'll be telling me stories about him, incredibly funny man. Funny man. Even you were saying, Don, as we were doing the Ballygolly Roundabout, what we used to do when we were coming home from gigs, we'd stop at the Ballygolly Roundabout. And Don, the Ballygolly Roundabout is a big roundabout. And we'd race around at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 or ahead.
It's all right.
There was 8 in the band. And you'd have to go around it 3 times, So Brian was so fast. He was so fast. You couldn't beat him.
Yeah.
You couldn't beat him.
Ireland swings and roundabouts.
He's a funny man. He's
That's
extremely
a good one, Declan. I like that. Yeah.
Funny man.
Did you talk much? Did he talk much about music with you? I mean, you're at kind of polar ends of the music spectrum, you know, in terms of he was very much the country singer.
Well, he was. Well, I mean, well, I suppose at that time the band. I mean, there wasn't a band like the Plattermen kind of doing soul music and all that Wilson Pickett stuff and the Four Tops. There was no bands doing that kind of music, you know. Yeah. Because, you know, like the Showband scene was all about, it was all mainly about dancing, you know, it's all about dance music and how people can dance to it, you know. But the Plattermen were doing all that kind of American stuff. They're doing all the Booker T and the MGs and all that Green Onions and all that stuff. You know, and others weren't doing that. All right, I mean, some of the bands around Belfast were doing the blues, like the beat groups and all that there. But the Plattermen were the only show band that were doing all that kind of music, you know what I mean? And and then you see, Brian was he was basically a country singer, you know, and his big hero was, well, Hank Lachlan, but his main big hero would have been Slim Whitman, and Brian was doing all this kind of yodeling type thing, which nobody in the country was doing that type of singing. But then he would turn it around. He would do Presley songs. He'd do What a Night and Such a Night and all the Presley stuff and all that. There, he could do all that stuff. Yeah. But there was nobody like the Plattermen them days. No. They had a big sound. They had a 4 brass section. Yeah. They had a keyboards to a guitar, bass, and drums. You know, they had a big sounding band, like, you know, fabulous band. Yeah, and Ray Moore, the trumpet player and keyboard player, he was the main arranger and fabulous arranger and all that there. Like of course, Artie McGlynn was in the band too as well. So the band was powerfully great band. Like, I used to go to see him and saying, geez, this band sounds great. And all of a sudden here I'm in it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But Rob, when they were deciding on songs to sing new songs, was it a democratic process, or did Ray and Pat say these are the songs we're doing?
Well, it was. First of all, I mean, I think in them days, you know, you had to do songs that people could dance to, you know what I mean? You couldn't do some of the Sly and the Family Stone stuff, and, you know, with some of the Blood, Sweat and Tears weren't out that time, but some of that different, as I said before, you'd have to be able to dance to it, like, you know, that was all about dancing in the halls. And of course, we done a few gigs here. When Brian left the band, then, you know, as you probably know, we kind of went kind of casual, long hair, sideburns, and all that kind of crack. And then we started getting into doing Chicago, Blood, Sweat and Tears, all that kind of different tempo stuff. So we were very limited at then. That would have been the early 70s. We would have been limited to go into the dance halls. We couldn't play down at Castle Bar now, and the Traveller's Friend, like, you know what I mean? Like, you mean that's a big place where there's 2,000 people, like, waltzing around, like, and if you're not doing any waltzes, like, you've had it, like, you know. So I remember we done the Bull Ring in what is it in London, Birmingham. That's it. I remember that. Always remember the Birmingham. The Bull Ring, we done 3 songs and we had to get off the stage, and that was it. These boys are not Irish. Get off. And that was it. Get off. And see the Galtymore Cricklewood. Forget about it too. So it was mainly all dancing in them days. You know what I mean? So our territory was limited, really. You know, we had the cities, all the cities, Galway, and, you know, all the main cities. But the country gigs, like, forget it now. We couldn't go near them now, you know.
Well, what about radio play, Rob? Would you get more to play in Dublin?
Well, not a lot of plays in Dublin. You know what I mean? You know, I mean, in them days, you know, radio play was all about, if you wanted to get radio played, or if you wanted to get the front page of the Spotlight. I mean, it was like, you know, in them days you had to pay for it. Like, I mean, to get the front of the Spotlight. I mean, that's about maybe 800 to 1,000 to get to the front, you know. Back page would be probably maybe 5, and maybe a quarter page would be 400. That's the way it was there in them 70s now, you know. So it was all about backhanders and all in them days, you know. You had to pay for your plays, you know. And if you wanted to get to number 1, you had to buy maybe 2,000 or 3,000 records yourself and throw them on the nearest dump or whatever, like, or give them out free, you know. A lot of that going on, you know what I mean? you know, to get position on the charts and all.
Yeah.
But no, I think you had to pay for everything, more or less everything. You know what I mean?
You're very fortunate to have such a good brass section in the band, like with the Pat.
Oh, fantastic, Don. There wasn't a band like it. We had Pat Chesterton baritone, Liam Barnes on saxophone, Ray Moore on trumpet, and Billy McGinty on trombone. And I know that was some sound of the band. I mean, we used to do all that sounds and corporate stuff, you know. But great sound band, there's no doubt about it. You know, then when Jerry Michael Duff was in the band too as well, my God, you know, there wasn't a band to equal us really, you know what I mean. And there were great bands out there too as well.
When did John Trotter come in board?
John, this was when we kind of went kind of casual. And Brian left. He left the Plattermen, and he wanted to start his own band, the Buckaroos. So he started his own band, the Buckaroos, because I think at the end of the day, pardon me, he wanted to have a country band. You know what I mean? So when he left, then you know, I mean, we got Simon Scott in, as you know, and Simon was singing a bit of pop music and all that there, and then we got, and John Trotter was with Brian Call at the time. He was playing violin. So we asked John would he come in. So John was playing trombone, and he was playing kind of rock violin with the wah-wah and do a bit of keyboards and all that there. But he is a different kettle of fish altogether, Don. He is an incredible musician, you know. Not only is he an incredible trombone player, but as a piano player. And playing the accordion and playing violin. He's just an extremely talented man, you know.
Yeah.
So John was in, you know, he was in the band for quite a few years, you know, and maybe 4 or 5 years, 4 maybe the most. And then after the mid 70s, I think the 1974, 75, it kind of dwindled out. Then, you know, the Showband scene. Well, what was happening? I think the ballrooms were all kind of closing down, the discos and all that stuff like that there, and that's the way it was. And people were hiring discos for a couple of hundred, and they don't want to be hiring bands. So that's how the Showband scene ended, really, Don. You know,
that's where Donald made all his money. Donald was a DJ. He made a fortune.
I did. I spent it all as well. Mm-hmm. Well, then, in later years, then you actually ended up teaching in Mountjoy, was it, Robert?
Aye. Well, I was playing around Dublin. I was playing around the clubs in Dublin, and I met this fella come up to me, a fella called Vincent Salmon, who was the head principal in the prison system, Mountjoy prison system, and all the prison system around Dublin. And he used to come to the gigs and was a big fan of the Plattermen. And he said to me, "What do you do during the day?" I said, "Well, no, I don't really do anything, like, you know." So he said to me, do you fancy going to prison and teaching the boys about a prison? I said, "Geez, I really don't know." So I said I'd go in and do a couple of days. And you know, Don, it's strange, like a prison, like, you know, it is very strange. It's very strange, like. So when I went in for it, it took me a while to get used to going in. Do you know what I mean? And you get to know what these fellas are in for now and again. You know what I mean? But you know you're safe enough, so no problem. But there's some crack really on the day. So I got in there and I worked there for about 6 or 7 years, you know, and I worked in Arbor Hill and I worked in Mountjoy and the training unit and all, you know. So, and you meet all these fellas and the young fellas in there, and, you know, you're teaching fellas how to play, and, you know, you realize, you know, they can't spell their name, you know, so they're illiterate, you know, literacy is a terrible problem. So I'd have to get the fellas to go to basic English classes, you know what I mean? But I got on well with them, and, you know, so once you get at it and get to know the whole ins and outs of going in and out there, you know what I mean? So when you see female teachers going in there and out, you know, so, you know, you just get used to the place. So I was there for about 6 or 7 years, and you know, I used to run a few arts. I started running an arts week in the training unit. So I got people like I got Paul Brady to come in, do a little stint. You know, he was nervous as hell. So I got the Hot House Flowers, and I got the Water Boys. So, and and Paul Brady, Brady was very nervous. And I got Christy Murrin, and I got what do you call it, Eamon Dunphy. I got Eamon Dunphy in to come in and talk to the boys about football, stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, great.
And Brush Shields.
Brush. He came in. He loves it. Brush would do anything. Brush do anything for anybody. He's that kind of a man. They love Brush now. He has great personality.
Yes, I know.
So we done that. I done that for a few years, So so then I kind of packed it in then. So I was there for about maybe 8 years or so at the very most, and I went professional again. I think I'll have a go with this professional musician again.
Well, you spent time in the States. When was that? Was that after the Platterman? And then you then went.
Well, I went there. No, it was kind of like an Irish band. We went to Vegas. Yeah. We went to Vegas. Kelly was not Kelly. Tina.
Yeah.
Tina was on the band. Johnny Murphy, singer from Tullamore, and
Richie Buckley.
Richie Buckley there was on sax, and Carl Garrity was on sax as well. Very good band. And Niall Power on drums, very good drummer. He was with what do you call him? What do you call the Boomtown Rats guy? What do you call him?
Boomtown Rats. Bob Geldof. Bob Geldof band for 25 years.
That's right. Yeah. He's with Geldof there. So it was just kind of an Irish band. I went out there to Vegas. We played there for about 6 months, and things didn't go too good. So it all kind of split up, and there's a lot of problems there. And so I headed up. 4 of us in the band went up to Kansas City, and we started playing this Mike Murphy's pub in Kansas City. He wasn't. He was Jewish. He wasn't Irish, but he called the pub Mike Murphy's. So we played there. We played there for about a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, and of course, at that time, wasn't a good part of my life. I was doing a bit of drinking there in them days, So I woke up one morning, the wife had left me. She was gone without me. So I had to come home then. I came home about a month later, and kind of that was the end of that then,
Yeah.
So,
and was the music that you played in Mike Murphy's on Las Vegas, it was all basically
it would have been all kind of,
the old sod.
It would have been all kind of Irish stuff. Tino had done a lot of Irish stuff. Johnny Murphy would done a lot of Irish stuff, and I was doing kind of like a few Fats Domino type things and kind of jivey stuff, a few Presley type things, and it was just a commercial band, like good band with really good 2 sax players, good guitar player, good musicians now, really good musicians in the band. But Johnny Murphy from Tullamore, he was a great singer. He used to do all that Tom Jones stuff and could sing it very well. And then Tina was doing all the kind of woman stuff, and I was doing a few songs, not a lot of songs, but it was just like a kind of a big show band type thing, but well done together, like Yeah.
So, and were you playing for an audience then who listened, or were they dining? And
there would have been all Irish. There were all Irish people out there, because the big 8 were out there. Brendan Bauer and the big 8 were out there. They were out there for years and years. You see, they all have been living out there for such a long time. So this fella, this attorney fella from Kansas City brought us out, and things didn't go too well at the end of the day, so just disintegrated,
Yeah.
So, and I was only there for a couple of months, and I couldn't really go home because I'd rented my house out for a year. So anyway, headed up with this Mike Murphy fella. He took us up to Kansas City, and he got us all sorted out, and we started playing in a kind of a big bar, and we'd wear our green apple suits and all that there, our Irish suits and all that, and we'd do the Irish stuff and all that, and mix it up and with a Neil Diamond, like kind of show bandy stuff, So then it wasn't a great time, but there's a lot of drinking going on, so a lot of partners splitting up. So the same thing as I said to my wife, I woke up the next morning, she had disappeared, So disappeared.
And he dropped
I
them.
came home anyway. Me and Richie Buckley came home anyway, and we came home together, and here we are at Dublin Airport, and between the two of us, we hadn't the price of a phone call. We're busted. We had a penny, the two of us. Richie bought all these jazz albums. He had a wee flight case, and he had 50 of his albums he brought home with him. And, well, it just fell apart. But anyway, we had to come home anyway, and that was it.
Yeah. And straight into music when you get back home then, into a band, or what happened then?
I tell you,
Once you got over the jet lag?
Well, I didn't go back to Dublin. Excuse me, I didn't go back to Dublin because I had my house rented out, you see, so I headed up to my brother-in-law up in Larne, outside Belfast. So I went up there and I stayed there for a year or so. And as Paul was saying, I started a band up called the Rockets up there in Belfast, kind of rock band, Billy Bell and drums, the guitar up there, Gordon Mallister and Eric Rickson, who played with Jim Armstrong's band many years ago, you know.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it was, and we started doing all the kind of rock, all the kind of bluesy rock places around Belfast at that time. That would have been the mid 70s now, maybe 76 would it be? Yeah. So I had a band up there for 2 years. 2 years I stayed up there. So everything else, and I wanted to move down south anyway. You know what I mean? So I moved back down south and started another band. You know, all together. There's so many bands there. But it was a very good band, that Northern band. You know, we done a couple of songs. We recorded a couple of David McWilliams, you know, that songwriter from Ballymena.
Oh yeah, Days of Perry Spencer.
Days of Perry Spencer. Your head's, you're good, man. Your brain's good. The Days of Perry Spencer. He had a big album out there. So I recorded one of his songs called "Farewell to Harlem." He recorded.
Right.
So that got about a few plays and. But you know what bands are like at the end of the day. It's very hard to kind of keep a band together nowadays. You know what I mean? And you know, but it was a good band. But I wanted to move down south, and I mean, my wife wanted to move down south, so we moved down there, and then I started getting together with bands down there. You know what I mean? You know, so I don't know what. Now, I think I started the Rob Strong band, the Southern Rob Strong band.
Right.
So I started that down with Mark Costigan and Fran Breen on drums, James the Lady on keyboards, and Carl Gertie on saxophone. So we had a band called the Rockets, and we played all around Dublin and all over the country, all over the main cities. Waterford, Galway, and Cork was great. No, we actually played up north a few times too, as well. You know.
Louis Walsh used to book you for a couple of years that time. Louis.
That's right, Paul. Yeah. It was good. Louis was a very small. He wasn't a big man in them days. He was just booking a few kind of show bands in them days.
He worked out of someone's office, didn't he, Robert? He worked for someone that time, didn't he? He worked out of some of the big promoters.
He worked with Tommy Hayden.
Yeah.
Tommy Hayden. I worked with Tommy Hayden. And I mean, he used to be coming up to buy gigs, and I used to do the bag it in, and he used to come up for his 40 quid. Out there. But he was only a young fella. Like, I mean, he's only a young fella. Say 18 if he was anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Did he manage
he was well liked. You know, he was well liked when he was young. You know, he got on very well. He done very well in the business. He was perfect, well liked, and he, as you all know, and I know, he's extremely well liked out in RTE too as well.
Yes.
But he's all right. He's a big man now in the business. You know.
Yeah. Did he manage the three-piece Spud? Remember them?
Spud? God, I don't know.
The Willows was their one and only hit.
Chips
Right.
was his main one. Chips from the north.
Right. Yeah, it was Chips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I heard it was something to do with potatoes. It was either or chips.
Yes.
He did manage Chips. Yeah, they were very big on the circuit. I managed them for quite a few years, you know.
Yeah, he's interviewed for the book, and he told me that the best bands at the time were the Freshmen and the Plattermen, and he loved going to the TV Club. The TV Club was mentioned nearly by every person I interviewed.
Aye. Of course, the freshmen were an exceptional band too as well. Like their vocal harmonies were, you know yourself, Don.
Yeah.
I mean, there was nothing like it. I remember going to TV Club Monday night and up in the balcony and listening to them doing the good vibrations.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, their harmonies, their blend was just. I know they
Billy
don't.
Brown was something else, wasn't he? Though Billy Brown was a talent.
But he was great, and he was the nicest guy you could meet. You know.
Was he?
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. But he was well gotten RTE. He used to do all the jingles and stuff like that out there in RT, and he used to call me and to go out and play bass on, you know.
Yeah.
And we'd have to stutter and say, Rob, your G string is out of tune. I wouldn't know because he's got perfect pitch. So I try to tune it up to the piano. Oh, you're up. That'll do you. But wonderful man, you know.
Yeah.
And he had great time. No big deal about him now, but extremely talented. But another story I must tell you, Don. We used to all stay in the Ashland Hotel up the Keys beside Houston Station. And of course, them days, I mean, you probably might have drove a Volkswagen Beetle in your day, did you?
I did indeed, yeah, exactly.
So we were all driving Volkswagen Beetles. Of course, the freshmen used to stay there, and Rory Gallagher used to stay there, and Chips would stay there. Yeah. We all meet up there. We'd be staying there at the weekend. And of course, I'll always remember at the front of the Ashland Hotel, and I seen Tormy Gaki driving up in an Alfa Romeo Spider.
Yeah.
And the guitar player, what do you call him? He had a 220 Merc. And then Brown drives up in a green Lotus. You know what I mean? And he gets out of the green. So what is he wearing? A pink suit. And I mean, he's a fucking fantastic looking guy, the long blonde hair, and obviously the woman to go with it as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But he was extremely down to earth.
Good.
Extremely down to earth, man, but very talented. But apparently when they did play with the Beach Boys, apparently, I mean, the rumors at that time, apparently their vocal harmony blend was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know.
No pitch correction or anything in those days, you know?
There was nobody like them.
Yeah, there's no pitch correction or anything in those days. Yeah.
That's it. Geez, boys, the memories are fairly good now, I tell you.
When did you pick up with Don Baker? Well, how did you meet Don Baker?
Well, I've wanted to know Don for years and years and years. I know the 70s and all that there. And I remember him, what do you call the guitar player? He played with Johnny Norris from Dublin, a fabulous guitar player. And they used to do gigs around the clubs and all that there. I got him a couple of gigs, actually. Used to get him gigs way back in the 80s and 90s and stuff.
Yeah.
But, and then Barry Gaster took him over and got him into a suit and all that kind of stuff. And we'll not talk about him now because Paul probably...
No, I dropped a few hints about him. You're all right.
But yeah, so... I mean, I know Don for years. I do know him a long time now, and you know, I've never worked with him till Paul actually put a tour together there a couple of years back. Yeah. He put on a fabulous tour together, and it was a sellout. It was fabulous. So it just worked so well, you know.
Yeah, and, I saw he's on RT in an afternoon program one time. It was superb. You had a great gig on it. Don't remember the name of the program, but it was one of these daytime television programs.
Oh yeah, Live at 3.
Yes, that's the one. Yeah.
No, it's called Today. Today it's called now, More and Dahi. You know, More and Dahi, but they call it Today now. But we got no answer, Don, from the Late Show. You think that two legends like Don Baker and Rob Strong, put the two of them together, no answer, no email, no phone call, nothing. So. You know, the people in Cork were very appreciative. They really appreciated the thing. And we got great publicity out of that because they repeated it over the summer months as well, you know?
Right.
Pretty good. That show was very good.
Yeah.
It came across very well. It was well recorded too, Paul. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was really come across very well. I suppose, you know, I mean, I thought it was probably a good angle, you know, as you were saying, like, you know, me and Don, like the two of us, you know, we're in the business quite a few years and we're doing a little tour. We could have got an old slot on the Late Show, but, you know, I don't know. It's kind of the same people seem to be, there's the same artists every week as far as But a lot of that's still going on, and you know what I mean, Don, from the 70s. You know what I mean? That's still a lot of that going down south here. You know what I mean?
It's the same everywhere. Yeah.
That's it. And I mean, that's the way it goes. You just bite the bullet and continue on, like.
Yeah. What's the future plans then?
Well, let's just say the future is what I hope that maybe we can do a couple of gigs. Maybe it'd be great if we could do a couple of gigs now. And a friend of mine getting married in September. I hope he's looking forward to me doing his wedding. So, but hopefully, as you know yourself, I hope that could be August or September. I'd be very happy if we could get back. You know what I mean?
Well, anywhere we played, Don, they want us back big time. Like we did 3 theatres there last year: Wexford, Kilkenny, and Waterford. And the gigs we were playing in Dublin, like the Arthur's place in Thomas Street, it was sold out 4 months in advance. And we were booked to play 3 more times in 2020. Obviously, everyone else is in the same boat, but we were on a high. Everywhere we were playing was sold out, and Drogheda, Greystones, Dublin, and then we started being booked into all the theatres. But with COVID, everything was just kind of at the wrong time. But they still want us back, of course. But when is the question? Nobody knows the answer.
Yeah, well, that's it.
That's cool.
And Bill Morrison, who I think played with Chips, he wrote his reminiscences of the playing in the bands, and he called it a big hand for the band, about mainly Belfast in the 60s and 70s.
Oh, that's great.
Then thinking of the late John Prine, he brought out a book of his songs, and the original lyrics and photographs and that. And one report was that he felt very emotional when he actually saw everything put together, in one between the covers. How did you feel when the book came out, Rob? What way did it affect you? To see your life compressed into a few hundred pages.
I think it's. I never thought about a book. You know what I mean? It was Paul's idea. I mean, I know Paul about a year now. Maybe slightly over a year. And as I said, he done a fantastic job at doing management. He's and he's a very impressive man, and there has to be something done. It gets done, and so he suggested to me in the first place. I never thought about me doing a book, but I am proud of it because there's a lot of good stuff on it, and he's done a lot of hard work to it and all that, and he's put me through my paces and all through, and that's the kind of man he is. And I asked my wife, who reads day and night, I asked her what she thought of it, and she did say to me, now, there's a touch of Angela's ashes in it. What do you think of that? So there you go.
Well, it has been a long journey from Springtown and Derry.
It is. When I look back at it too in my life, and a lot of people can see that and get connected with that too. That's what I find. Some of the people that phone me and tell me about it, and I'm very proud of it now, and and I'm great to have it. I suppose. I think everybody should have a book in them. Everybody has a book in them. You don't as a musician, you can be a presenter like yourself and Dawn, and you could have your book, and you know what I mean. A book is a book. You know what I mean, and it's a good thing to do. And as I said before, I would have never dreamt of doing it or thinking about it even. Only to Paul, I got to work with Paul, and he suggested it. And boy, I tell you, when he goes to do stuff and he does it, and I tell you, and you have to be on your toes too as well.
Right.
If you got the chance,
at the end of the day, I am delighted, and there's a lot of good stuff in there, and it's good to look at it, and
But at the same time, I have to say, everybody's been honest. There's no bullshit in the book. Like, there was no one entertained that way. Declan's read the book already, and Donald's reading at the moment too. But like, your wife was very straight, on, your problem with the drink at the time in America, and there was no, what would I say, sugarcoating.
No.
You know, it was said exactly as it happened. And on the other hand, I wasn't looking for any dirt or any kind of controversy like all the tabloids look for today, you know?
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Well,
That's it.
Great read.
if you could do it all again, would you
That's
do it?
good,
Would you
fella.
do it again?
Eh?
Would you do it all again if you could?
Of course. I have no bad memories on it. Of course.
No
I do it
regrets.
all.
Great. Yeah. Fantastic.
I'm delighted to my life. Where you know, no, I don't. I mean, a few kind of teardrops here and there, but sure.
We all make mistakes. I think regrets are something that you don't have because we do the best we can given the knowledge we
That's
have
it.
at the time.
Well, you said it all there, Don. That's it. Well said. That's it. You know, we all make mistakes, and that's it. That's it.
Yeah. Well,
But I think just to put it in again, sorry to repeat it, but just to say it in front of Rob there, that I had a couple of reasons to write the book, but the main reason was that you have such a wonderful world-class talent, and it has been recognized on and off, you know, over the years. Like you were really looked up to in the 70s, we'll say, when you were fronting the Plattermen, and then again in the 80s, you know, when you were on television a lot, and then a little bit then the 90s again, when you know the Commitments came about and you toured all over the UK and Dubai and all those places. But overall, there's not many people that have lasted 55 years on the road playing with the really high class quality musicians. And because you're so modest and so humble about your abilities and all that, I just thought this had to be done. This is the right thing to do, no matter what, you know, like, and
Very good.
I'm delighted, you know, with the end result from everybody that was interviewed in the book. I'm very happy to get around those people. And it was very easy because you were always available on the phone, and I rang you every second, third day, and didn't matter what you were doing, you always put the whole project, you know, top of the list. So it was easy for me like that. And because you don't have an ego, you know, like most musicians have, you just don't have that ego side there. You know, it was great for me to get on with it. You know, I didn't have to go through you. You let me get on with it. And that was such a pleasure for me to do in those circumstances. But I wouldn't be doing it for many people, to be honest.
Well, you've done a fine job, and it no doubt about that, you know, and there's been great reports on it, and you know, and at the end of the day, if my wife likes it, you can better believe it, she likes it, you know, and that's it. she's a hard critic now to get past her, you know. But
that's good.
But it's good. Well, it's well put together, Paul.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and hopefully you when things level out a bit, you'll come up and do a launch in Omagh. I know that you were intending to do one with Brian Call, but you know, we'll have to get that off the ground.
I'd love to do that. I'd love to do a show about and talk about Brian.
Yeah.
I owe an awful lot to him. An awful lot. And as I said before, I'm delighted that Paul got him before he died, you know. God bless him, you know.
Yeah.
So that's it.
I was saying too that even though you were 16 years in Derry before you moved to Omagh, Omagh is your proper home. It's where you were most appreciated.
Of course. We
would love to make that connection again. Play a gig, launch the book, and you know, talk on stage like with yourselves or whatever, you know.
Great. Well, look forward to it.
Omagh, at the end of the day, all the people from Omagh have adopted me, you know, and they think, you know, and any time I played in Omagh, my God, I always done very well. So I mean, I might as well be from Omagh, really, more so like in Derry in some way, you know what I mean? Because nobody seems to remember me in Derry too, anyway. But the only people who would remember me in Derry would be people from Springtown Camp, where I was born and reared. But Omagh, I lived there a good bit of my life, and I mean, I think I'll have to go for Omagh.
Well, that's good.
There you go, lads.
I look forward to that.
Just before we go, Paul, just let us know where the book's available again, just for the record, will you, Paul?
Yeah, well, just locally in Omagh, it's available at Boneyard Records whenever that opens up again, of course. Mark is a great man there to look after those books there. But the main way is on the website. We have Rob's website. It's called www.robstrong.ie. And if you want to send an email, it's info@robstrong.ie. And my number is 087 963 0375. And we'll hope to have the launch before too long. We'll start with Omagh, I think.
Great. I look forward to it.
Omagh, and then first. The rest of the world.
Omagh is first. Good to see you.
Gentlemen, thanks very much for the chat.
Thank you very much, Rob.
We'll see you,
done, Rob.
Anytime. Don, all the best to you.
We'll be in touch. Thanks, Johnny. Thanks, Johnny, as well.
Thanks, Paul.
Right, all the best. Thanks, lads.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
There's many's a gay night from dark till daylight I spend with people of high renown. But in all their grandeur and heaps to squander, my heart would wander for sweet Omagh town.